tatta dhim tatakita dhim tadim tattam.
Isn't it true that we all crave for authenticity? In our search for why are we here, what is the purpose of each one of our lives, for a lot of us, the yearning to express our being in an authentic way, or to yearning to express that authenticity of our being, is central to finding that connection to meaning and purpose. Those of us who are able to excavate this authenticity and to be able to actually manifest it, because of course authenticity only becomes real when it is actually expressed and manifested, then we can feel that moment where it feels like something has landed, and it's not something that is ever possible to bring into words, and it's sometimes not even reflected. In fact, mostly in my own experience, it is never reflected in whatever is already there outside, and it has nothing to do with anything commercial or transactional. It's not to please anybody else, it's not to service anybody else, but rather it's like that incredible manifestation. In fact, in some of the ancient Indian poetic invocations, it is said like it must be hurled out, or it must be propelled, or just impelled out when you come into touch with the authenticity, that it is so fiery that it must just be propelled out as an expression. And that in itself is a transient moment. And so therefore authenticity can never be captured as a template. Sometimes we mistake authenticity for the values that we are invited to embody or to express in our lives, and there is nothing wrong with those values, but they are not really what authenticity is about. So I'm speaking about the values of acceptance, patience, service, being helpful. All of them are important, but authenticity is something else. It is, in my experience, it has been something of a creative expression. It's always been connected to the creative domain, something that is of the soul, and is just it just flows out. It's like a dam that's broken and the waters just come rushing out, and there is no way that we are really standing there shaping each step of it, but it just comes out. It's an outpouring. And so many of the archetypal invocations are this, they're called this outpouring. The words that are used are words that denote an outpouring. I also wanted to share this a connection between the outcast experience and authenticity. And I wanted to share something from my own life, which has really given me a lot of teaching about the connection between the outcast archetype and the expression of authenticity. I grew up in a family with a lot of narcissistic constellations and dynamics, and for those who have had this experience, you may know that this is one of the most complicated and difficult experiences to actually share with those who don't have any experience of these dynamics, because these dynamics often exist in very familial, in very intimate or familial or domestic situations, and is completely invisible to anybody outside. So there is a very different projection of the reality that is everybody else sees, and something quite else is happening in the privacy of the domestic sphere. So as I grew up, I had this dissonance. I had this experience of reality which was happening to me, and I also had this reality that was presented or was projected, and which everybody around supported and enabled and bought into. Now, I'm sure that some of them were able to perhaps to sense that there were other things going on, and I've heard people say that to me later, but nobody wants to confront and to upset the status quo. So there is this parallel realities going on. As a child, this is really confusing, and those of you who've had this experience perhaps may understand when I say that. But what saved me was that I had dance in my life from a very young age, and I was lucky enough to be with a teacher who held that archetypal wisdom of authenticity in his dancing. It's not that he spoke about it or analyzed it or intellectualized it, but there was that in his dance, and maybe because of some past life, remnants of a past life, I apprehended it in that way, not because I had words for it either when I was young. I didn't. I only came to perceive it much later in life, but nevertheless, it was somewhere in there. I had this sensation of what was authenticity in that poetic, expressive sense, untemplated sense, and then this reality that I was being asked to almost enact, which had nothing to do with what was actually my sensation, my apprehension of what was happening. And this led me even into the dancing, because when I started learning dance, it was really to fulfill what the adults around me wanted. They wanted me to be a dancing star. I was a performer from the age of 9, and I had what you might call a certain stardom at a very young age. I was very successful, but at a very young age, again, of when I was about 16, 17, 18, I began to question this performative aspect of dancing. I felt like it wasn't really what I wanted to do, what expressed where I was positioning myself in the dance. And that led to a falling away, an excommunication from the dance, from the mainstream of dance itself. And in my personal life, a falling away from the family because of certain personal decisions I made. And there was this emergence of this outcast space. So in the dance tradition, there are these many ancient goddesses who are outcast goddesses. They are goddesses who are not in the village, but in the forest beyond and outside of the village. So in order to meet these goddesses, we have to make a very deliberate decision to leave the village and venture into the dangers of the forest. And very early on, I had an experience of this forest space. All the time, even as a child, this wildness of what I was feeling, which was not validated by anybody around me. And the village that seemed to have its own story, which really wasn't congruent with my authentic experience of what was going on. And that paralleled itself, as I said, in my experience in dance. And this wildness of the forest, this outcast space, was truly a gift of all of these experiences. I don't want to be simplistically positive. It has taken me years and continues to take me much energy and attention to deal with some of those dynamics. And to all of those who have had similar experiences, my heart goes out to you, because I know how challenging they can be. But what I'm saying here is that the beauty of this archetypal wisdom was that it allowed me to embrace the trajectory of my life and the intelligence that it provides, and in order to bring me back, to return me, or to open up that quest, that yearning for authenticity, and the courage and the ferocity, and almost like the choicelessness. The choicelessness I needed to express this authenticity so that I could survive, so that I could breathe, and so that I could find the reason that I am alive here in this particular consciousness in these times. So I hope that this reflection on the outcast space and authenticity brings some intelligence about the dynamics of this yearning for authenticity, and the fact that it is never easy. There is always perhaps it won't be the challenges that I faced, but there will inevitably be challenges. It is not templated, it is not outside of us. There is no roadmaps and templates that are given to us. Indeed, it may even be very threatening to people around us. And I'm not even speaking about the macrocosmic threats of overturning societies. I'm speaking about the very simple everyday situations, the narratives which we hang on to not upset the status quo, to not rock the boat. And authenticity can challenge some of those narratives. And these were known to the ancient archetypal traditions. And they provide this whole archetypal constellation where the ferocity that is needed, this energy and the strength that is needed, and sometimes even the aloneness that is needed. All of this is embraced, protected, nourished, seen, and celebrated in archetypal invocations of authenticity.